What's up, guys? It's Kara, and I'm back with another video. So, I know this channel's new, and this is the first video on here, but subscribe and hit the bell if you enjoy the content to get notified when I do upload a video. So, now that the shameless self-promotion's out of the way, the new Death Note movie was released on Netflix about a week ago. Yes, I know I said I was going to have the video up on Saturday, but I forgot the movie came out on Friday, so I obviously needed time to watch that, and I was finishing up the anime series for another time just to get a refresher in my brain, since it had been a year or so since I'd seen it. So, having owned a few mangas from the series and having seen the anime probably 3 or 4 times, I wanted to give it a chance, despite the videos that I had seen between the trailers and what other otakus in the community on YouTube had to say prior to its release. I'm going to continue on, but past this point, please note that there will be spoilers for both the live action as well as the anime itself. So, if you don't want spoilers for either of those, please exit the video now. You have been warned. Please don't complain later that there were spoilers. As I've only finished the anime, I will not mention anything from the manga. So first off, my first problem that I have is with the casting and characters. One of the most mentioned casting choices I think I've heard is the casting for L, which this is also the most controversial, which he was casted as Keith Stanfield. So my problem with this choice are the same as what everyone else has previously said. L, in every other adaptation, including the original source material, was a pale character. I believe they even confirmed he's of European descent. So, they chose to cast someone that was black for the role. I wouldn't have had a problem with this if they chose any other character but L. L is probably the most notable character from the series, probably even anime as a whole, yet they removed his most recognizable physical traits. His overall appearance was changed so much that if you were to just take him and take a single scene from the anime, show me a picture having no knowledge whatsoever who that character is, who he's supposed to be playing, and just told it's in Death Note, L would probably be the last character I would have guessed. So, also, his personality was completely changed. He wasn't as wacky or out of place or childish as he was. They replaced him and made him much more mature and serious. So, he was the complete opposite of how he originally was. Also, for some reason, he was the only character they decided to do this to, but they decided to make him move as if he was still in an anime, which, being just him doing it, it looks really awkward and out of place, and it shouldn't be in there. So, moving on, Light, now, who for some reason had been changed from Light Yagami to Light Turner, is completely different from how he was. Also, his dad's name was changed to, I forget his first name in the anime, but he was changed to James Turner. So, back to Light. In the anime, Light wanted to play God and create his fantasy image of a perfect world using the Death Note, but in the movie, until the end, he shows very little interest in the Death Note and its true power. And also, his little sister, Sayu, she wasn't even written into the plot, and his mother was killed, which drives him to do his second kill. So, now, I want to move on to Misa, who is now Mia, by the way. She's a cheerleader, and for some reason, goes to the same school as Light, and Light, for some reason, goes up to her, and is like, hey, I have this book, it can kill people. That's pretty much what he did. He's like, I have this book, you just write people's name, it can kill people, I'm not crazy. And she believes him, and why would anyone do that? Even if they were the dumbest person on earth, they wouldn't go, hey, I have a book that can kill people, you want to see it? So yeah, that makes 0 sense. Also, they decide to be a power couple to create the perfect world, which makes no sense to me either. And Misa's the one pulling all the strings this time in the relationship, where she's the one that decides all the killings, what happens, what to do. But in the original, it was Light doing everything. I have no idea why they decided to do this. I don't know why they thought it was a good choice. Honestly, this whole movie is a bunch of whys. Why they do this? Why did they change this? So, there's so much more I could say about what's wrong with the characters, but I could easily end up ranting all day, since the only character that I actually saw done kinda right was Ryuk, and he didn't even appear that often. He had maybe 10 minutes of screen time where he was actually talking. So, I think now I'm gonna move on to the problems I had with the plot. So, first off, after Light finds the Death Note, which, by the way, he didn't even find, it was pretty much thrown at his feet and given to him, he uses it to kill a bully in his school, which is one of the few things he refuses to do in the anime, to kill someone that he personally knows in his personal life, and he had very little rules with the Death Note in the first place. Also, afterwards, he ends up getting detention, and this video has been going around everywhere I've seen. He completely freaks out when he first sees Ryuk. Like, I understand they did it to seem more realistic, but with Light's personality, how it was, he wouldn't have acted this way. So, also, he was taught all the rules of the Death Note, specifically by Ryuk, instead of learning from experimenting and trial and error, where I remember one of them, he was like, there's this guy in prison in Japan, and he's like, he's gonna die in Paris under the Eiffel Tower in 2 hours. Well, you can't get out of prison and all the way to Paris from Japan in 2 hours. So he learned that it has to be realistically able to happen. So instead, they just died in the woman's bathroom, I believe it was. So there's that. And then also, with L, he just goes around in public. He's like, oh well, I don't care. You can see me. Everyone can know who I am. Even though he knows there's a killer going around. So he openly appears in public. He speaks directly to Mr. Yagami, having no idea who he is, or even if he can be trusted. Which, by the way, there's no task force. It's only Mr. Yagami. And L even openly appears on the news. And instead of using, I believe his name was Link L. Taylor, that he just appears on the news as himself, and he's like, hey, what's up? I'm L. I'm looking for Kira. Like, that's literally the way to die. And the overall movie, it took place in probably only a couple days instead of over the course of a few years. And also, I forgot to mention this, Misa is constantly seen holding the Death Note, but she's still unable to see Ryuk. That in the anime, all you had to do was touch a single, not even a single sheet of paper, but like just a little tear off of a sheet of paper from the Death Note, and you would be able to see the Shinigami that originally owned the Death Note. Okay, so aside from what was wrong with the plot, I also noticed very many things missing. First off, there was no Shinigami ideal, which was a major part of the original story. That's what made Light originally start working with Misa, and also it caused many other driving points throughout the story. Also, there was no Mello or Nier, which they were the predecessors that were in charge of taking over L's place after L died. And that takes up about half the anime's plot. It's just all the stuff going on with Nier and Mello. And in the end, it was Nier that found out who Light actually was and connected the part that L was missing to find out that Light was actually Kira. Also, since there was only one Death Note, there was only one Shinigami, so there was no Rem, which she played a major role. She was in charge of killing L, as well as Watari, which, by the way, he was killed by a SWAT team, because his name was written in the Death Note. But it's not just simply dying of a heart attack. They called it Shinigami's choice, where the Shinigami had a choice of how to kill, and how Ryuk decided it. He was going to send in almost like a SWAT team, and they were going to shoot and kill Watari. So, also, there was no second Kira. So, that also played a major role in the story in the original, and it was nowhere to be seen since there was no second Death Note. Misa couldn't have access, and there was no way for Light to also have a Death Note, while also someone's going around killing with a Death Note, and there was no way for Mello to get a Death Note, even though Mello didn't exist. And there was just no crazy circulation of a Death Note, that it instead stayed with Light for the most part, except for when he was in a coma towards the end of the movie. It went around for a little bit, but he had it end up back at him. So now I could go on all day with what was wrong with this movie. I could probably even end up doing a 2-hour live stream on it. But the video's starting to get long, so I think I'm going to start winding it down. Anyways, I want to add the disclaimer that I haven't watched any other videos after the movies were released on Netflix, and so my opinion's only my own. I want to add the disclaimer because I know there are other videos out there. I know there were also people that said not to watch it. Like, I know the Anime Man said not to watch it. You're welcome for the shout out, Joey. But I think overall, the movie would have been okay if it was its own standalone series or story, instead of trying to be based off of such an infamous cult classic anime such as Death Note. So I don't think I'd ever watch it again, but there have been worse adaptations. It could have been another Avatar movie, or it could have been even another Dragon Ball Evolution, so it could have been that bad. It's probably more comparable to the Black Butler live action, where it would have been good as standalone, but since they were both based off of well-known anime, they were seen as bad, since they kind of just took the story, put their own spin on it. Like, I could do another video on the Black Butler movie, but just to show you how much of off from the original was, it was set in more modern times. There was no CL, there was no Grell, there was no Undertaker. I think the only character that was in there was Madame Red and Sebastian for the Black Butler live action, but I can make another video if you want me to. You can tell me below if you want me to. But they definitely left room for a sequel in Death Note. But do I think they should? No. Do I think they will? Maybe. Because you saw all the craze it got from it. But Misa's dead. Elle went crazy. And the overall response on social media for the movie was terrible. So that's the majority of my thoughts on the live action. So please tell me down below what you think and if you agree or disagree with what I said. And I know I said all this in the beginning, but you can subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed the content to get notified when I have new videos up. I try to upload every single Saturday or Sunday, as well as if this is your first time seeing my face, I also have a gaming channel that I've been running for about 3 years. I will have it linked in my end card for you to check out. So, bye guys.